I knew something was off the moment I stepped out of the terminal and no one was there. After 5 hours in the air, 2 hours crawling through TSA and baggage claim, and 1 hour of staring at my silent phone with no calls or messages, I finally opened my rideshare app and ordered a car myself. San Diego was humid in that coastal way that clings to your skin. I clutched my handbag tight and sat on a bench outside Terminal 2, watching the palm trees sway, wondering if maybe they'd just gotten the time wrong. They hadn't. They hadn't planned on picking me up at all. The driver, a young woman with chipped turquoise nails, helped me with my suitcase. "Visiting family?" she asked with a polite smile. "Yes. My son's wedding." She glanced at me in the mirror. "Big day. You must be so proud." I nodded slightly, not entirely sure what I felt. My son, Ethan, hadn't seen me in over 3 years. He called twice a year, on my birthday and Christmas, both times sounding distracted, like he was already halfway out the door. When he announced his engagement to Lila, he did it in a group email. No phone call, no personal word, just a digital card with pastel fonts and a stock photo of palm trees. I told myself he was busy. That maybe I was out of the loop. That maybe he thought I wouldn't care. But I cared more than he would ever know. When the car pulled up to the address he'd sent me, I blinked at the building. It wasn't his house. It was a hotel, a modest chain, the kind that offered free breakfast and had beige carpets that always faintly smelled of bleach. At the front desk, the young man didn't even blink when I gave my name. "Just one night," he said. "Check out tomorrow at noon." I slowly signed the paperwork. One night. The room upstairs was neat and impersonal. A towel folded into the shape of a swan sat on the bed. I unpacked in silence. No note from Ethan. No welcome basket. I pulled out my navy dress and hung it on the door handle. Simple, with sleeves, the kind you could wear to a wedding or a funeral. I had worn it once before, to my sister's funeral. Dresses don't care about the occasion, they just wait. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the muted television cycling through cruise commercials. Outside, the sun dipped low over the horizon. I checked my phone. Nothing. Around 7 p.m., I finally texted him, "Just landed at the hotel. Let me know if you need any help tomorrow." No reply. By 9:30, the silence in the room felt loud. I made tea from the little machine in the corner and slowly sipped it while scrolling through old photos on my phone. Ethan at 10, holding a baseball. Ethan in his graduation gown. Ethan with Lila in a picture I'd never seen before, her arms around him at some vineyard. She looked effortlessly beautiful, the kind of woman who makes you feel underdressed no matter what you're wearing. The next morning, I woke at dawn. The hotel curtains let in slices of pale light. I showered, dressed, and pinned back my gray hair. I wore pearl earrings, a gift from my late husband, Daniel, and a soft pink scarf that had once belonged to his mother. I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't look like a stranger. I looked like someone trying not to hope. At 8:30, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. "Hi, this is Amanda from Coastal Bloom Events. Just checking in, you're Mrs. Reed, right? Mother of the groom?" "Yes," I said. "Perfect. You're scheduled at table 17. Ceremony starts at 3. The venue address should be in your email." I didn't get anything. Pause. The sound of papers shuffling. Looks like we sent the info to the bride's parents list. I'll forward it now. Sorry about that. It's fine. Table 17, I repeated. When I arrived at the venue, a glossy all-white building perched near the cliffs, the parking lot was already full. I walked slowly, carefully, in my low heels. At the entrance, a young woman with a tablet smiled but didn't recognize my name at first. I had to repeat it twice before she nodded and gestured toward the garden. The ceremony area was set with rows of chairs, ribbons fluttering in the ocean breeze. Guests clustered in small groups, laughing and hugging. I scanned the crowd for my son but didn't see him. Then I heard her voice. "Everyone, this is Margaret. She used to be married to Ethan's father." I turned. Lila stood among a group of middle-aged guests, one manicured hand resting on a friend's arm. She said it lightly, almost gently, like she was introducing a family heirloom. "Not Ethan's mother. Not the groom's mom. No, I was the ex-wife of the late Daniel Reed." Ethan stood just behind her. He said nothing. Years of silence teach you to hesitate, to check your own temperature before responding. I smiled faintly, neutrally, as if Lila had introduced me correctly, as if I hadn't just been turned into a stranger at my own son's wedding. The group murmured polite greetings. One man extended his hand. "Nice to meet you." I shook it. He didn't know. How could he? Ethan adjusted his cufflinks, still silent. "I'll be in the third row," I said evenly. Lila smiled and turned back to her circle. Her dress shimmered in the morning light, elegant, tasteful, expensive. I walked away slowly, my legs heavy under the weight of it all. The seats were filling fast. White petals lined the aisle. A woman in a suit pointed me toward a row near the back. "Reserved for extended family," she whispered. I glanced at the place card. My name wasn't on it. Just guest, table 17. I sat. The ceremony was beautiful, too beautiful, in that kind of rehearsed, Pinterest-perfect way that leaves no room for memory. Lila's vows sounded like they'd been copied from a wedding blog. Ethan smiled, big, charming, genuine. Or maybe just relieved. Not once did he look in my direction. When they kissed, everyone clapped. Cameras flashed. I sat in the last row, hands folded over my purse, waiting for my turn to disappear. The ceremony ended with the kind of precision you only get from expensive wedding planners. The couple walked back down the aisle to applause, the guests followed in orderly rows, and within minutes, the white chairs were already being folded up behind us like none of it had ever happened. Outside, shuttles lined up to take guests to the reception hall. I approached the driver of the first one. "Is this for family?" I asked. He looked at the clipboard in his hands, frowning slightly. "Just immediate family, ma'am." "Of course," I said, stepping back. It wasn't the words themselves that stung, it was the reflex in my body, the way I instantly made myself smaller so no one would notice the rejection. I waited for the second shuttle. The reception venue was a ballroom with high ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and a string quartet tucked into the corner like living background music. The kind of place that doesn't just want you to admire it, it wants you to know it costs more than your car. I checked the seating chart posted at the entrance. My name wasn't anywhere near the head table. Table 17. Far back, right by the swinging doors to the kitchen. The event coordinator smiled apologetically when I hesitated. "Oh yes, that's correct. Right this way." I walked through rows of round tables set with gold flatware and embossed menus. The centerpieces were towers of white orchids. At table 17, 7 people were already seated, none of them familiar. "This is Aunt Linda," one woman said, gesturing to herself before realizing we'd never met. On Lila's side. There was also a retired colleague of Ethan's, a couple from Vancouver who didn't seem to know anyone, and a man in a suit who spent the first 5 minutes telling us about his golf handicap. I smiled, nodded, and placed my handbag carefully in my lap like a shield. From where I sat, I could just make out Ethan across the room, laughing with Lila and her parents. He looked relaxed, comfortable, as though there were no empty spaces in his life that needed filling. When the toasts began, I braced myself again. Lila's father went first. He had the kind of voice that carries, confident, practiced, almost political. "Today, we join 2 incredible families," he said. "We remember those who can't be with us, especially Julian, Ethan's father, and we give thanks for the love and guidance of those here, Lila's parents, her grandparents, and of course, Ethan's wonderful stepmother, Eleanor." My name didn't pass his lips. A ripple of applause went through the room, and I heard a man at my table lean toward his wife. "Who's Eleanor again?" "She was married to his dad," she whispered back. "Not for long before he died, but I guess she's basically his mom now." I felt my jaw tighten. Then Lila stood, her champagne flute raised high. "And to the people who made this day so magical, my parents, my step-parents, and the incredible woman who helped shape Ethan into the man I fell in love with, Eleanor." The applause was louder this time. Cameras flashed. Across the room, Eleanor smiled gracefully, her beaded champagne-colored dress catching the light. She had the air of someone who belonged exactly where she was. Ethan didn't correct a thing. Dinner was served, and conversation at table 17 turned to sailing, real estate, and summer homes. I excused myself, saying I needed the restroom, but really I just needed somewhere I could stand without pretending. The hallway outside was lined with black and white photographs of the coastline, fishing boats, sunburned children, women in wide-brimmed hats. I stopped at one showing a couple on the pier, holding hands against the wind. When I returned, my seat was taken. No one noticed me standing there. I didn't bother asking for it back. That's when I saw her, June. She was weaving through the tables, awkward in her heels, her dark hair frizzing slightly in the humidity. She spotted me instantly. "I saw you leave," she said when she reached me. "It's loud in here," I replied. "They didn't put you at the family table." "No." Her lips pressed together. "Dad said," she stopped, glancing toward the head table. "I know what he said," I told her. There was a beat of silence. She was 19 now, taller than me, but at that moment she looked like the little girl who used to crawl into my lap when she was upset. "You want to go for a walk?" I asked. She nodded. We slipped out a side door into the gardens. The path was lit with strings of lights hung low between the trees, and the ocean was a dark, restless shadow beyond the cliffs. For a while, we walked in silence. Then June said, "Why didn't you tell them that you're his mom? That you paid for part of this wedding?" I let out a slow breath. I didn't want to make a scene. I thought, maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone would fix it. "They're not going to fix it," she said, her voice firm. "They told people you weren't healthy enough to fly, and that you insisted Eleanor come in your place. Mom told me herself." I stopped walking. June nodded. "They didn't forget you, Grandma. They replaced you." A strange sound escaped me, half laugh, half exhale. I bought my ticket. Booked my hotel. Took time off work to be here. And still, I'm not part of this wedding. I've been erased. June's voice softened. "Do you want to leave?" Every part of me wanted to go. But not like that. Not quietly. "No," I said finally. "I'm going to finish the night. I want them to see me. To remember I was here." We headed back inside. Just as we reached the patio, Lila's voice rang out over the microphone. "And to everyone who made today so special, my parents, Ethan's father Julian, and of course, my amazing mother-in-law, Eleanor." Another wave of applause. June's hand trembled in mine. We returned to table 17. Nobody noticed our absence. I slid into my seat and smiled faintly, like a ghost settling back into the corner of a photograph. And that's when I made my decision. I wasn't leaving without being seen. Dinner plates were cleared. The cake, 3 tiers of fondant perfection, was wheeled in like a celebrity, with the photographer darting around to capture every angle. From my spot at table 17, I couldn't hear a word of whatever Lila was saying into the microphone, but I could see the guests laughing, leaning toward her, hanging on each sentence. When it was Ethan's turn, he thanked our wonderful families, our friends, and everyone who traveled so far to be here. Everyone, except me. I sipped my champagne, the bubbles gone flat hours ago. June glanced at me, and for the first time all evening, I didn't look away. My hands were steady now. My pulse had slowed. That was the dangerous thing. I wasn't upset anymore. I was clear. When the band started playing the first dance, I stayed seated. Lila and Ethan swayed under the chandeliers, her veil gone, her curls brushing his shoulder. Eleanor stood near the dance floor, smiling like she'd raised him herself. My son's eyes found mine briefly, but he didn't smile. Didn't nod. Just looked, and turned away. Then the DJ called for the mother-son dance. There was no pause. No scanning the room for me. Ethan simply extended his hand toward Eleanor. She floated into the spotlight, her beaded dress shimmering as though it had been waiting for this exact moment. The crowd clapped. Someone behind me whispered, "So sweet." I didn't move. Not yet. The song was halfway through when June leaned close. "Do it," she said under her breath. I stood. My chair scraped the floor, and for the first time all night, heads actually turned in my direction. I walked straight to the edge of the dance floor. Not quickly, not dramatically, just deliberately. Ethan saw me coming. His smile faltered. Eleanor's eyes darted toward the tables. When I reached them, I rested my hand lightly on Eleanor's arm. "May I cut in?" I asked. For a beat, no one moved. The music kept playing, syrupy and slow. Then Eleanor stepped back. Whether from grace or discomfort, I couldn't tell. Ethan hesitated, but I placed my hand in his before he could answer. We danced. Neither of us spoke at first. I could feel the stiffness in his shoulders, the way he kept his gaze fixed just past me instead of on my face. Finally, I said, "You didn't tell them I was coming." He didn't deny it. "It was complicated." "No," I said evenly. "It was simple. You just didn't want me here." His jaw tightened. "You erased me," I continued. "From your table. From the toasts. From your own wedding." "It wasn't like that," he muttered, but there was no conviction in his voice. I leaned closer so only he could hear. "Everyone in this room will know I was here. They will remember this. And so will you." The song ended. Applause. I released his hand, turned toward the nearest camera, and smiled, not the polite, tight-lipped smile I'd worn all evening, but the kind that says, "I belong here, and I am not invisible." I walked back to my table, my head high. For the rest of the night, I didn't hide in the shadows. I danced with June. I spoke to strangers. I posed for photos when anyone asked. And when the shuttles lined up at the end of the night, I didn't wait for permission. I stepped onto the first one. Sat in the front. Watched the venue shrink in the rearview mirror, and felt something loosen in my chest. They hadn't wanted me there. But I'd been there. On my terms. The morning after the wedding, the hotel lobby smelled like burnt coffee and stale croissants. Guests shuffled and wearing sunglasses, dragging rolling suitcases. The polite glow of yesterday had faded into travel exhaustion. I sat in a corner armchair with my tea, scrolling through my phone. There it was, the first tagged photos. One showed Ethan and Lila cutting the cake, all teeth and candlelight. Another was the mother-son dance. But not with Eleanor. With me. My hand on his shoulder, his on my waist. A few comments below the picture had already noticed. "Wait, that's not Eleanor? Thought the stepmom did the dance. Who's the other woman? She looks like family." I almost laughed. June found me about 15 minutes later. She was still in her dress from the night before, hair pulled into a messy bun. "They're talking about it," she said without sitting down. "Who?" "Everyone. At breakfast. On the group chat. Mom's pissed. Lila's. I don't know, doing damage control or something. They keep saying you hijacked the dance." I sipped my tea. Good. Then they noticed. June grinned, a little conspiratorial spark in her eyes. Around 10, Ethan texted me. We need to talk before you leave. I typed and deleted 3 different replies before settling on. I'll be in the lobby for another hour. He came down 15 minutes later. No tux now, just jeans, a t-shirt, and a face that looked like he hadn't slept. You embarrassed Lila, he said without preamble. I told you last night, I wasn't going to be invisible, I replied calmly. You made it about you. I looked him in the eye. You made it about erasing me. I corrected the record. He sighed, rubbing his temples. I didn't think it would matter this much. You're my son, I said softly. It matters. For a moment, I thought he might apologize. Instead, he just nodded, muttered something about catching his flight, and left. On the plane home, I opened Reddit. I'd lurked for years but never posted. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I typed. My son erased me from his wedding, so I made sure they'd remember I was there. I wrote about the seating chart. The toasts. The lies they told about me not coming. The mother-son dance. I didn't use real names. I kept it factual, even when it hurt. When I hit post, I expected maybe a handful of comments. By the time we landed, it had over 3,000 upvotes. The top reply read, NTA. You didn't cause a scene, you reclaimed your place. Good for you. Another. This wasn't hijacking. This was a quiet boundary checkmate. And then, my favorite. They tried to write you out of the story. You wrote yourself back in. I closed my phone, leaned back in my seat, and let myself smile. For once, the narrative was mine. It had been 21 days since the wedding. Long enough for the flowers to wilt, for the photographer to send out the first batch of edited pictures, and for the polite thank you cards to start appearing in mailboxes. No card arrived for me. At first, I didn't care. I still had the screenshots, hundreds of them, from my Reddit post. The thread was locked now, but it had passed 20,000 upvotes before the mods froze it. People were still talking about it in other subs. Every so often, I'd get a private message from someone who had stumbled on the story. Some shared their own tales of being pushed aside at weddings. Others just wanted to say I'd inspired them. It was oddly comforting. These strangers, who didn't owe me anything, understood me better than my own son did. June called one evening. They had a dinner at Mom's last night, she said. Ethan and Lila came. It was tense. Tense how? I asked. Apparently, someone at the wedding posted a TikTok of you cutting in for the dance. It's got like 500,000 views now. People in the comments are calling you a legend. Lila's furious. I laughed. Legend. That's a new one. June hesitated. Ethan said you embarrassed him in front of his friends. Did he mention erasing me from the seating chart? No. But Mom told him he should have warned you about the arrangements. I almost dropped the phone. She said that? Yeah. Don't get excited, she followed it up with, but you still shouldn't have made a scene. A week later, Ethan texted me. Can we meet? Against my better judgment, I agreed. We chose a neutral place, a cafe halfway between our houses. He looked tired. Older, somehow. I read your Reddit post, he said as soon as we sat down. My stomach tightened. And I didn't realize how much it hurt you. That's because you didn't ask, I said quietly. He stared at his coffee for a long moment. Lila thinks you did it to spite her. I think, maybe you did it for yourself. I did it so I wouldn't disappear, I replied. You can marry whoever you want, but I won't pretend I'm not your mother. He nodded slowly. I don't know if Lila will ever get over it. That's her choice, I said. But you and I? That's ours. We didn't hug when we left, but he didn't walk away without looking back, either. That night, I logged into Reddit again. Not to post, just to read. Somewhere in that endless scroll of strangers, I found another thread. Update: my mom cut in during my mother-son dance. I'm still mad. I didn't click. For once, I didn't need to. The TikTok wasn't even high quality. Shaky hands, bad lighting, muffled audio from the band. And yet, it had 640,000 views by the end of the month. The caption? Mother of the groom wasn't invited to dance, so she invited herself. The comments were worse, or better, depending on which side you were on. Top comments: this is cinema. Petty? Maybe. But she's my hero. Bride's side of the family must be seething right now. This is why you don't try to erase people. Someone even made a slowed-down edit with dramatic orchestral music, zooming in on the exact moment Eleanor stepped back. That one hit 1.2 million views. June sent me screenshots constantly. Stop sending me these, I told her. You love it, she shot back. Don't lie. I didn't answer. A week later, my phone rang. Unknown number. This is Margaret, the voice said, cool and clipped. Lila's mother. I almost smiled. To what do I owe the pleasure? I think you should know the kind of attention you've brought on my daughter, she said. She can't even post wedding photos without people leaving unkind remarks. Perhaps she shouldn't have erased the groom's mother from the wedding, I replied. There was a pause. It was her day. And he's my son, I said, voice even. I didn't yell. I didn't ruin anything. I danced with my own child. The internet is reacting to what they saw, not to what I told them to see. Margaret exhaled sharply, as if I'd passed some invisible line. You've embarrassed the family. No, I said. The family embarrassed itself. From then on, the divide became visible. My side of the family, cousins, aunts, old neighbors, started messaging me, some openly sharing the TikTok as if it were a medal. Ethan's father stayed quiet, which in our family meant he was silently choosing a side. Eleanor blocked me on Facebook. Lila deleted her account entirely. One evening, June called again. They're rewriting it already, she said. What do you mean? They're telling people you stormed the dance floor and made a scene. The only reason that's not sticking is because the video's everywhere. I leaned back in my chair, letting that sink in. Without that grainy, shaky clip, they could have rewritten the whole story. And maybe that was the point. The internet doesn't forget. I hadn't seen Ethan in 3 days. He wasn't answering texts. Not that he usually did, but now it felt different. Finally, he appeared in the kitchen, looking exhausted. Mom, he said, barely above a whisper. Hey, I said. Can we talk? He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. About what? About the wedding. About all of this. I waved my phone slightly, the TikTok still glowing on the screen. Ethan's jaw tightened. I don't want to talk about the internet. You think I do? I asked softly. I want to talk about us. He ran a hand through his hair. You embarrassed me. You embarrassed my wife. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone. I swallowed. I danced with my son. That's it. You want to call that embarrassing? Fine. But I didn't ruin your day. Not ruin exactly, he muttered. But you made a scene. People remember that scene. I shook my head. No. They remember what you made them see. That's the difference. Ethan looked down. I don't even know what to think anymore. Mom, Lila, my family, everyone's choosing sides. Then maybe that's their problem, I said. Not ours. There was silence. Then he whispered, Do you even understand how hard this is for me? I understand you're torn between your wife and your mother, I said. I get that. But I also need you to understand me. I'm not the villain here. I didn't erase anyone. I didn't manipulate anyone. I just danced with my child. He stared at me, unblinking. I don't know if I can look at you the same way again. I felt a sharp ache in my chest. Ethan, if this changes everything between us, then that's a heavy price for a video. But I hope you'll remember me. The real me. Not what a shaky camera decided to show. He didn't answer right away. Just turned and left the kitchen, leaving the silence behind. Later that night, June called. You two okay? She asked, almost cautiously. Not really, I said. I don't even know if we'll be okay for a while. Mom, she said softly, sometimes silence is an answer too. And sometimes, it's just them figuring out they can't rewrite the story anymore. I smiled faintly. Maybe you're right. Outside, I stared at the ceiling through my window, thinking about how fragile our relationships were. How easily the internet could twist a moment into a legend. And yet, I also thought about how much truth survived, even through all the chaos. The video had gone viral. But I hadn't lost myself. Not yet. I woke up to 93 notifications from the family group chat. Seriously, 93. Momgroupchat.exe initiated. June, Mom, we need to talk. Aunt Clara, what exactly were you thinking, dancing like that? Grandpa, I can't believe what I saw on the news. Cousin Mia, OMG. Did you post it yourself? I stared at my phone, blinking. Okay. Breathe. One message at a time. Me, I didn't post it. The video exists because, well, someone recorded it. Aunt Clara, someone? Someone? It's all over the internet. You think someone just happened to record it? Me, Aunt Clara. You're overreacting. June, not really. Everyone's overreacting. This is a thing now. Grandpa, thing? Your mother is now a meme. A literal meme. Me, thanks, Grandpa. That's comforting. Cousin Mia, honestly, you're dancing, it's kind of impressive. But also terrifying. Me, so, good or bad? Make up your minds. June, bad. It's very bad. But also, funny. Aunt Clara, funny? People are mocking the family. Me, and yet, they're talking about me. That's fame, right? Grandpa, fame? You're not a pop star, you're my daughter. And now a viral disaster. Me, see, I'm not denying the disaster part. But do we really need to call it every 5 seconds? The chat exploded. Literally. 10 more people chimed in with memes, screenshots, and unsolicited advice. I muted it. Mom. Can you just not? Not what? Respond? Dance? Exist? Just not make it worse. Ethan. The video exists. Worse has already happened. I know. But please, can we survive this quietly? Survive. Quietly. Got it. I'll try. By evening, I found myself scrolling through the comments under the video. Mom goals or nightmare fuel? This is why weddings should have cameras, to memorialize chaos. Her face when she realizes she's viral, loudly crying face. I laughed. Then cried a little. Then laughed again. And somehow, through all the ridiculousness, I realized something. No matter what anyone said, no matter how much the world mocked me, I still had my story. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. I finally decided to talk to Ethan in person. Not over Messenger, not in a chat, in real life. He was sitting in the kitchen, headphones on, scrolling through his phone. "Ethan," I said. "We need to talk." He didn't look up. "Talk? About the video, right?" "Partly. But also, about everything else." "Everything else? You mean your mom dramas? Or my life? Because I've got my own dramas too, you know." "I get it, okay? But we can't just ignore each other like strangers." "We're not strangers. We just have different ideas of respect." "Oh, please. You respect me until I make a tiny mistake, like dancing in that wedding video." "Tiny mistake?" "Mom, that video is literally everywhere. I can't take 3 steps without someone bringing it up. You think I can just pretend it didn't happen?" "I'm not asking you to pretend. I just want us to get through it. Together." "Together?" "Mom, you're worried about your viral fame. I'm worried about school humiliation. Not exactly the same battle." "Okay, fair. But I want you to know. I know. You love me. I love you too. But, can we not turn every little disaster into a feelings drama?" Wow. Harsh. But honest. Someone's gotta be honest. We just stared at each other. The kitchen clock ticked way too loudly. I wanted to scream. He wanted to disappear into his headphones. "You're right. I overreacted. Maybe you underestimated. Maybe. Or maybe we just need some distance." "Distance. Got it. Temporary. Temporary. Until the next viral disaster, obviously." We laughed a little. A little. And for the first time in days, the tension eased, imperfect, unresolved, but real. A few days later, we sat at the kitchen table, like nothing had happened. "You know," Ethan started, chewing his toast, "I was thinking about that video." "What were you thinking?" I asked, my heart racing. "That it's funny. And I don't want us to keep fighting over it." "That's good to hear. I don't want that either. So, can we just be normal?" He raised an eyebrow, smirking. "Normal? What does that even mean?" I laughed. "No drama, no videos, no your mom lectures. Just us." "All right. We can try that. Plus," he winked, "I'll still be doing dumb stuff. And I'll still talk about it," I smiled, but now, without yelling. We smiled at each other, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like we could just be together, no battles, no social media, just us. And you know what? It was way easier than I expected. Weeks turned into months, and things slowly settled into a rhythm that actually felt good. Ethan and I weren't perfect, far from it, but we were connected. There were still mornings he'd roll his eyes at my questions, still nights I'd get frustrated at his constant phone scrolling, but the arguments that used to feel endless now ended in small smiles or awkward laughs instead of slammed doors. One Saturday, we sat on the couch together, a half-eaten pizza between us, and I realized how much I'd missed these simple moments. "You know," Ethan said, shoving a slice into his mouth, "I actually like hanging out with you. Even when you're being a mom." I laughed, taking a sip of soda. "Even when I'm being annoying and lecturing?" "Yeah. Mostly when you're lecturing. It's like, I don't know, comforting, in a weird way." "Comforting?" I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah. I dunno. You care, even if it's annoying." I smiled, feeling something warm in my chest. "I do care, Ethan. I always have." He looked at me, a little softer now. "I know. I get it more now. And I care too." even if I don't say it a lot. We sat in silence for a few minutes, just watching a show neither of us was really paying attention to. But the silence wasn't empty, it was full, in a way I hadn't realized we'd been missing. Later, I found him messing around in the kitchen, trying to make pancakes, flour everywhere. He laughed when he saw me staring. "Don't judge me," he said, smearing a bit on my nose. I laughed, wiping it off. "Too late. You've officially started a food fight." By the time the kitchen was a disaster, we were both laughing so hard our stomachs hurt. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like chaos, it felt like us. That night, as I tucked him into bed, he said, "Thanks, Mom. For everything." "Everything?" I asked, curious. "For not giving up. For sticking around even when I was a jerk." I hugged him tightly. "I'll never give up on you. Never." He smiled, half asleep, and muttered, "Good. 'Cause I need you." And that was it. No grand gestures, no perfect resolutions. Just love. Messy, frustrating, hilarious, and imperfect love. But it was ours. And somehow, that was enough. Sometimes, life doesn't give you perfect moments, it gives you real ones. Messy, loud, frustrating, but real. And those are the ones that matter the most. I've learned that love isn't always dramatic or cinematic. Sometimes, it's just sharing a pizza, laughing at a disaster in the kitchen, or hearing your kids say, "Thanks, Mom. I need you." And that's enough. Because being there, really being there, is what makes all the difference. So take a moment today to notice the little things. The laughter, the hugs, the tiny victories, they're what life is really made of. Thanks for watching. Remember to cherish the small moments, they're the ones that last.